Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're moving on. We are in our penultimate day for the week, Thursday. Be checking out some big train for Comfy Week. Now, Big Train is channel. It's a band we've had on the channel before, and I've always been really happy to see them. I think they put on phenomenal performances and have really strong composition. And I don't think today's going to be any different. So let's get into this. The song's called Hedgerow. Yeah, we got some rhythmic ideas being shared between the lead line and the vocal lead line. Real smooth transition into that halftime there.
Too many hours spent under the ground. Come on and see what I know.
I love those vocal harmonies. They're so clean. Drummer's getting in on them too. That bass is real nice there as well.
Stoking the fire, rumbled and Bryan.
Yeah, the drummer reveals this new halftime tempo and the fill coming into it. Really clean transition idea. Yeah, great bass work.
Sing it with me. That is where you will find me, out there waiting.
The dude has great projection on his voice too, just really strong, powerful vocal projection.
That is where you will find me, out there waiting.
The drummer's starting to put in some work. They're really playing around with some interesting jazzy chords as well.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Good girl. Come on, good girl. Bad girl. That'll do. That'll do.
Yeah, a really nice gradual retardando there rather than just going straight into this new tempo. Oh, we did hit a new meter. We're in 6/8 now. beautifully expressive lead line right here. It is so good. What an interesting guitar tone. Oh, it's not a guitar tone. He's just doing some wild, what is that? Vibrato on it. I feel like I said this too often. I feel the bass had just a little more punch to it, a little bit more volume. And this is kind of what I expect from Big Big Train. I don't know if it's normal or if it's just the songs I've been presented with. These huge endings, though.
Sing it with us. Nice and gentle. That is where you will find me, out there waiting low. That is where you will find me.
Yes.
Out there waiting low. That is where you will find me, out there waiting low. That's where you will find me. I'm out there waiting low.
Yeah, some amazing counterpoint going on here with all of this atmosphere work while also providing embellishments and ornamentations around with the brass. It's just, golly. That's good stuff. I can definitely see how that is a comfy. I think this is the first song for Comfy Track Week, and I'm like, yep, I find comfort in this as well. Yeah, that is that's good stuff. That's good. All right, so as I mentioned, Big Big Train, man, they bring it every time. I don't think I've listened to a song from them that I have not walked away from rather pleased and awe-inspired. they have a way of creating these exceptional, palatable, larger than life rock songs. I think that's the best way to put it. Um, I can see why. Yeah, I ain't gonna go there. So yeah, let's get into some of the stuff that's going on though. The song is interesting, given that it's a 10-minute song. It actually follows a very standard song structure. We have an A B C B idea. Um, there are variations on that final B. The C is actually a pretty lengthy C section. There's an intro I'm not taking into account here, so there are some caveats to this. You could probably extend it out into something a bit more nuanced of a structure, but I think that it's interesting that at least on a larger scale, if you look at it from just a little further up than I think you would necessarily need to, you can see the workings of a very standard song structure here. We have a verse, chorus idea. We have the middle section, which has the guitar solo and the violin solo, and then we bring it back with the hook. We bring the chorus back in, and we do some ornamentation on it. We bring in some new instruments on it. We bring in a new vocal melody line that runs counterpoint to everybody else, and there's some changes in tempo as well. There's a couple of halftime and double times going on at the end to change up the feeling. But for the most part, it actually falls within that verse, chorus, bridge, chorus idea, which is just very cool that they can take that core concept and, work it just a little bit to make a song that doesn't feel as rigid as that typically ends up producing. And like I said, there are some caveats. There's an intro to the song that I'm not adding in there. If we counted the intro as the A section, it changes things up a bit. The bridge is quite extended, and there's two solos in it that function in different styles. So technically, the bridge is, you would probably want to break that down into two more ideas. So it's probably like an A, B, C, B, C, D, E, C, which is a bit more of a mouthful, but is more accurate, I would say. Um, but it is cool that at least on some level you can see more of a traditional modern structure in here. With that said, though, the music itself is what always draws me to Big Band, or sorry, Big Train. They are a big band, so I think it's fitting, right? Big Train, they tend to play around with a lot of different styles of music. There's definitely a strong classic rock and big band slash classical stuff. I know they're not similar. Classical, I mean, big band's jazz, classical is its other thing. They're very different, but I think they take very small pieces from each of them. So I kind of like put them into this group of minor inspirations. They also have a little bit of a prog flair to them, taking some ideas from 70s prog era of rock, and they just bring it together in, like I said, a very palatable expression of these ideas. Um, this is a rock band that I think you could take your parents or grandparents to see, and they would not be disappointed with it. Um, and that's for better or worse. Palatability is one, subjective, and two, can be viewed as a, well, to tie into the subjectivity, it can be viewed as a positive or a negative thing. A lot of people tend to, well, not a lot of people. I don't want to inject statistics into this. Some people will view palatability as a negative aspect. Um, but I think they do all of this with such precision that I at least find it difficult to not appreciate what they're doing, even if I didn't enjoy it, with the caveat that I'm approaching that perspective as somebody who really enjoys it. So I'm speaking for someone who's not myself. I could be wrong there. Take that with a grain of salt. But I mentioned that, they're a rock band at their heart. They have the drummer, they have the singer, they have guitars and bass. They're all electric. And to me, they utilize sort of a jazz fusion idea for the core of their music. And jazz fusion is an interesting genre in that it sort of has two ends, two styles that fall under the same umbrella. We have jazz that incorporated rock ideas and prog rock that incorporated jazz ideas, and they're both labeled as jazz fusion. I see this more on the line as prog rock that incorporates jazz ideas. Um, in that it's a pretty standard rock band that utilizes some of the sounds, some of the chord progressions, and some of the soloing concepts of jazz into their music, um, rather than a jazz band pulling in some rock inspirations. And where some of that jazz inspiration comes from is a lot of their core chordal ideas for their parts that are spoken or sung over the verse and the chorus. They tend to play with very standard, I would say, chordal ideas, but when the vocals are not doing anything and it's just an instrumental section, they get really interesting with some of their chordal movements. There was one section where we were changing chords every bar, maybe it was every other bar, and they were doing so with some really interesting modes and chord names, with some suspended ideas in there, which are very jazzy ideas to give these very colorful, very spicy chords that sound gorgeous when played in the setting with all the the traditional palatability and mainstream beautiful musical ideas surrounding them, and it really brings out a little bit of extra oomph in these sections while showcasing some of their compositional chops. And it's just, ah man, it is done so well. Even though it's, like I said, it has this precision of knowing when to be a little bit more technical and when to be technical in a more palatable way. Something that even if you weren't well versed in the theory behind it, you would still be able to appreciate, hey, that sounded different and I liked it. Even if your brain isn't consciously thinking that sounded different, it's still a new, you're still registering it as something you don't typically hear. And they just walk this fine line between, traditional musical styles and adding in some of these flares. That same idea can be applied a lot to the drums. There is a lot of pretty standard metronome playing in the drums, but the drummer also has this phenomenal flair to his ornamentation and his fills and how he chooses which thing to hit, which instrument in his kit to hit, and how long to stay on his rolls, and when to move between instruments in the fills, when to add in a rogue cymbal hit when there hasn't been one in that specific beat. It's those little embellishments that really add a lot of character to the drumming, and I think the drumming is really key, at least to this song, because so many of the sections, at least when we look at the verse chorus idea, including the outro chorus, I would say they have very similar soundscapes to them. They're using not identical chords or progressions, but similarities between them, and it's one of the things that keeps the song feeling cohesive. All the elements feel like they stick together, and part of that is going to be reusing chordal ideas, and reusing atmospheric ideas to retain a sort of sonic identity for the song. The drummer does a fantastic job at changing things up. When the rhythmic elements of the song hit halftime or double time sections, when there's embellishments, when there isn't, the drummer does a lot to keep each section feeling fresh and unique, while the atmospheric and chordal ideas are retained across sections to keep the cohesion. It is once again a very precise way of writing this style of music where it feels more complicated than it is at times, um, but also retains a feeling of simplicity despite it having a bit more complexity. I mean, they have at least 6 members in the band. Then you have your brass section alongside that. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the song still retains that simplicity to it. It doesn't incorporate some of the uh, complex elements that you can see in other bands or other styles of music that incorporate larger number of voices, such as classical. There's a reason that classical music just isn't a very popular style, and that's because a lot of the music that is created classically or created in the genre tend to be a bit more complex than the average listener wants to listen to or is trained to listen to, or whatever reason that classical music doesn't appeal to them. And these guys just find that fine line between adding the complexity while still retaining that simple listening, that easy listening. I think is what I want. Not simple. It's easy listening. You don't really have to focus in on some of the complex elements, and you can still have a really good time listening to them. Um, let's. Oh, dude, I got to get on the vocals, man. I mean, I was pretty impressed when the guitarist and the lead vocalist were harmonizing. Then the drummer kicked in. Then the violinist kicked in. I think the second guitarist also did some vocal harm. I mean, just golly. I wonder at what point in time they decided they wanted such a diverse harmonic or vocal library to select from. Was this something that started on day one and they just happened to find so many vocally talented people? Or was this something that evolved over time and, the guitarist ended up taking vocal training and the drummer took some vocal training? They slowly trained some more of the members so that they could incorporate their voices. Because this is another section of complexity that they've added. They don't just have, I gotta count this because I said 6 last time, but I want to double check. We got the violin, the vocalist, 2 guitars, bass, and drums. Keyboard? Is there a keyboardist? I heard keys. I don't remember. Oh, there is a keyboard. Assuming that that's the same. I'm just gonna rewind this a little bit. Um. Okay, so it looks like the guitarist is on keys, or the guitarist has a. Oh, there's a dedicated keyboardist back there. Maybe. I don't know. The camera's moving so wildly. I just want a. Okay, so in this setup, where the brass, everybody in the back is darkened. The only musicians who are highlighted are who I mentioned. The guitarist is blocking the keyboard though. All right, you know what? I've wasted too much time. We're gonna go with 6 members: violin, 2 guitars, bass, drums, vocals. 7 members. Oh man. This is getting pretty bad. So we have the 7 members. They're all playing their instruments. There is one doubling up at least. The guitarist has a keyboard next to him. So we have 8 instruments right there. But then so many of the instrumentalists also do vocals as well. There is at least 3 more vocals that can be added. So we are looking at 11 timbres in just the bass line. We're not even talking about different setups for the guitars, or if the violin, I think it's an electric violin, so there's a chance that it could also be run through some effects and amplifiers and cabinets and whatnot to alter the sound as well. But before taking in any of that digital element, everybody just using one tone for their instrument, we're looking at 11 timbres that can be utilized, and there's going to be a lot of texture, uh, layering and options available for them to work within. And that is, I mean, you can tell that they use it very well. And then we also have, the tones and stuff that are applied on the electric instruments. The guitar at least went through two different tones, probably some more. And then they always tend to have, from what I remember, listening to older Big Train songs, they always have some sort of um, other guest instruments. And this one happens to have some brass, the French horn, the trumpet. I think there was a tuba. I wish we could. There is a tuba. Is there a baritone? There's a good shot. So a trumpet, French horn, trombone, tuba, and possibly a baritone. I think. Um, Although baritone's not sounding right for some reason. Anyways, so we have a brass section, a full brass section back there, and that brings our count really close to 20 timbres that can be utilized. And they can all be harmonized. They can all be synergized in different ways, rhythmically, chordally, harmonically. We have really nice ideas of counterpoint there at the end, where the violinist brings her vocals into the mix but sings a completely different melody and lyric. And they are just masters of knowing when and how to use everything at their disposal, all of the timbres that are available to them. I don't know if I finished my thought about the vocals though. In the comments, let me know. Did they start out with so many different vocalists, or is that something that evolved over time and they realized they wanted to add more timbres, or maybe the different members wanted to participate with vocals, or whatever reasoning that they would have taken up vocal training over, past the initial start of the band. I'm pretty interested about that because I think it would be wild to just happen to have all these fantastic voices that work so well together just happen to meet up and start a band together like this. To me, it seems far more likely that they started with a primary singer and then added more singers over time as they wanted to utilize vocal harmonies as a compositional tool. But regardless, like I said, the end result is just phenomenal. I love the way their voices work together, and they do a fantastic job of really working all of them in together and allowing different combinations of these vocals to sing together, these different timbres and textures. The main vocalist does do a lot of the harmonies, but even there at the end, we got to hear the drummer and the violinist alone actually hitting the same pitches. I thought that was very cool because we got to hear two very different approaches to it. The drummer had more of a full-bodied voice. To me, it seemed like it's a bit higher than his speaking voice, so he actually had to put some air pressure behind it to hit it. Whereas the violinist felt a lot more natural, and it is a bit more airy and less power to it. It's more of a natural tone for her, and to hear those two combined just adds really nice layers of texture. And it's those little combinations that I like to hear rather than just the main vocalist and somebody else, which is pretty much what most of this was. But like I said, I do enjoy that they allow these little moments of different vocal combinations to happen. Um, the solo sections were phenomenal. I love um, their melody writing. I think they have really great catchy hooks for their choruses, the main ideas, their big moments. They have great hooks there, but they also showcase really strong storytelling writing, narrative writing in the melodies as well when they showcase some of these solo sections. The violin in particular stood out to me. The guitar duet, which was just harmonization on the same idea, it wasn't like a dueling back and forth or counterpoint. It was just both of them doing the same thing. I thought that one was all right. It had a tough job to do coming up after the that phenomenal violin solo, but Yeah, there's not many ways you could have topped that. I thought it just nailed the emotion and the writing just beautifully, and was a great transition from what we had just before with the high energy of the chorus. The transitions were fantastic. I thought they utilized, they had a few tempo transitions and two technically meter transitions, one from the 4/4 into the 6/8 and one from the 6/8 back into the 4/4. They were all masked very well. There were quite a few occasions where the drummer or an instrument would introduce the new speed, the new tempo, a couple of beats or maybe a full bar beforehand. The drummer specifically utilized a lot of this in drum fills moving into the next section. He would introduce uh, either a ritardando or an accelerando to change the tempo in his fill into the next one, and it creates just a beautiful transition. Let's see. I think there was. Oh yeah. Big Big Train, Big Big Moments. Every song I've heard from them have these huge endings where they bring everything together. They bring in more instruments. The guest instruments, as I call them, are brought in the last revisiting of the chorus. And once again, just no disappointment. We have some really nice lines in all the instruments. I think the French horns bring a nice, like a nice flair. What is it? Like a regal flair to the whole thing. We often hear trombones, trumpets, tubas. We get the high end, the mid, and the low. I mean, those are the three main brass instruments that we tend to hear whenever bands utilize a brass sound. But French horns have a very unique sound to them, I think. It's brassy, but it's more uh, regal, or what's the term I'm looking for like royalty. It's more of a royal sound. It has a bit more air to it than the raw power that you get out of the trumpet and the tuba, um, and some of the nice slides you get out of the trombone kind of have like a smoothness to it, but the French horn, I mean, it's all on its own with its own tone. You can't really mistake a French horn for any of the other brass instruments, where trumpets hitting a lower tone and trombones hitting a higher tone once they start getting in the same range. Yeah, there's minor differences, minor nuances in the tone, but I think if you're not too trained in it, you can kind of mistake one for the other. Same thing with trombones into the tuba range, or tubas getting a little higher in range. French horns, I don't think you'll ever mistake for another instrument. They have such a unique sound, and I feel like it's underutilized in a lot of popular bands utilizing brass sounds. And to hear it here, I mean, it was immediately noticeable. As soon as the brass came in, the French horn started with holding these notes, and I was like, French horn, it's excellent. They got one in here. Um, but yeah, these big moments at the end. We have all these nice runs and embellishments. We have these nice textures coming in. We have the trumpet, of course, playing these high little licks, these embellishments to what's going on everywhere around them. And once again, fine-tuned precision in the composition. There are a ton of things going on in the end. I mentioned we were almost at 20, or a maximum of 20 different um, timbres, most of them being used. We have a lot of vocal harmony going on. All the instruments are playing things. They know exactly where they have space to add a lick and when they should let some instruments back off. And they do this very well. Like I said, case in point is those trumpet licks at the end. They come about every few bars, and they sort of provide a bit of extra flair on top of what's going on. And they're only brought about when the room is available for them. Otherwise, the trumpet just kind of sits there. It's just it's just precise on every level. It is, what did I say earlier? A precise rendition of ideas in a palatable mainstream way, or something along the lines. And that's what Big Big Train is to me. They can create these very complex compositions and deliver them in a way that is easy listening. And I think that's phenomenal. But those are just my thoughts on Big Big Train's Hedgerow. I can totally see how this is some comfy music, but at the same time, to me, it's also very exciting music. There's so many cool things going on. Maybe after I've listened to it for a few times and really get into the groove, and I don't really need to like, or I don't keep hearing new things, because I'm sure second, third, fourth time listen, I'm going to hear some new things in here. But after I've heard it a few times, it becomes one of those songs that I just enjoy. I can totally see dimming the lights while it's raining out, opening the blinds, watching the rain hit the window, putting the headphones on, and just chilling out to this fantastic stuff. But let me know what you guys think about Big Big Train's Hedgerow. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Let me know anything that might have stuck out to you that I missed, or if you agree with any of my comments. Um, I did not touch on the lyrics at all, although there was definitely some elements at the end where they were doing almost all vocals that I did pick up on some stuff. The violinist was naming a bunch of stuff that is calming or nice to see in a summer. I don't know. I kind of want to say Hedgerow is a place, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it seems to be some sort of celebration of nature in Hedgerow or nature in summer, if Hedgerow is a place. Um, but yeah, if you have any insight into that, go ahead and let me know. I did not get a chance to check out. Oh, the dog running around too. So yeah, I'm really leaning into like spring and summertime vibes. um, When you're done commenting, head into the description box. There's a link in there for Linktree. It will take you to a menu with all sorts of stuff related to the channel. You want to follow me on Twitter, join the community Discord, support me through Patreon, submit a special selection, email me, check out what I've been listening to, check out what I've been creating, all sorts of things. They're all in there. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. All three things help out the channel immensely. We got one more video that's already out. This is, wow. Wow. Okay, usually for a 10-minute song, I probably have about 10 to 15-minute things to say. Usually get these videos done under 30 minutes. We're about to hit 40. So yeah, the special selection video analysis reaction is already out. Go ahead and watch it. It is the band Summoning. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to look at the last two songs for the week. We're going to look at another comfy track. And then we're also going to look at a creator request where a band contacts me and says, hey, you mind checking our stuff out? And I say, yeah, let me listen to it, analyze it, and present it to an audience. Well, help you out a little bit. So I'm excited about that. I always love doing those. And then, of course, the weekend, no videos. Time to catch up. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to. And remember and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.